Hey you guys, it's Peter, and it is late. It is like 1:30, and I just realized I hadn't vlogged at all today. And I am sitting, I just did a live stream a little while ago, and I'm sitting on my front porch, and I am reading Peter Larangus's The Yearbook, which is actually really scary. And I was like, I'm kind of hungry. I want to go get something to eat. So I think I may do that. I'm rocking in my glider. And it's a beautiful night outside. Look at the plant that I got from my aunt's house. It's a beautiful night outside. How are you guys doing? It's like 75. And I've been like out here on the front porch all day long. I love to just like sit out here and watch like people walk by and stuff like that. And I've just sat here and watched like all of the people go to the pool and all of the kids ride their bikes down there with towels over their shoulders. It's been really fun. It's been a good evening. It's been a good day. And I usually go to a meeting with Tanya on Tuesday nights, but she's in Florida. So Alex and I might go out to dinner tomorrow night. I have no idea what he's doing. He usually plans something to do with his friends because I have my meeting on Tuesday night. So this is probably making you guys sick because I'm like going back in and out. Anyway, I'm going to get in my car and I'm finishing the chapter that I'm reading, and then I'm going to get in my car and I am going to vlog for like a half an hour. So what do you guys want to talk about tonight? What should we talk about? I don't know. I feel like telling some summer memories, I think, tonight, maybe. So, I'll be back with you guys in just a couple minutes. Okay, I'm in my car. I just saw the greatest thing. I was like... So, the neighborhood that I live in... Oh, my chapstick is completely ruined. Like, completely. I'm gonna have to throw it away. Ruined. So, the neighborhood that I live in... is like... It's not a retirement community. There's young people that live in there, but like our neighbor, she just graduated from college like last year, I think she said. 2 years ago, maybe she said. Anyway, and from DePaul. But other than that, like the average age is literally like people in their 70s. And it's like, so we have these lakes in our community, and there's probably 40 condos around the lakes. It's a really small condo neighborhood. It's beautiful, huge, mature trees. I mean, it's gorgeous. It looks like on a Golden Pond. It's really nice. If you ever seen the movie On Golden Pond, it's like, it looks like a lake community, like a lake houses. It's really pretty. And we're not on the lakes, but like on the other side of the street, they are. But so I just was coming up, and these kids, like in high school, were like fishing. Like as I came by with my lights, and they both like turned and looked at me because they're like sitting there on the side of the water or the side of the grass fishing. And I've never thought about fishing there, actually. It's such a pretty night outside. I thought it was like 75, but it says it's 67, so I guess it's not 75. I have like screwed up my camera. I have like all of this stuff like showing on here that I didn't used to have, and I did it the other day when I was like filming some video. I like hit some button, and I don't know what I hit, and like it does all this wacky stuff now, and now like it doesn't show my videos on my camera the way that it used to. It actually shows it like a strip of like film, if that makes sense. And I need to change it back to how it was. Not that I think it really matters, but like right now it shows like everything on there. It shows like the dimensions and all this. It's driving me nuts. Like I don't like it on there at all. And I don't know how to switch it back. Like I played it with it today, but I'm like worried that if I play with it too much, I'll screw it up. So anyway. Is it a full moon? It feels like the moon has been so bright the last 2 nights. Something in this car is rattling. I'm gonna get something to eat in a little bit, but I just texted my friend Tanner and asked him what I should talk about in my vlog, so let's see what he said. While I'm at the stoplight. Real quick, that just turned green. Something interesting, he said. Thanks, Tanner. something interesting. Something old and something new, something borrowed, something blue. We did that for our wedding. That was really important for me. When we planned our wedding, it was like really important for me that like said something old. What did we do? I can't remember what we did. Something borrowed, something blue, something old and something new. New was our rings. Old, I can't remember what was old that we used. Something borrowed was, oh, Caroline, my cousin, gave a ring from her mom. And that was either old or borrowed. And then something blue was, Caroline also gave me like the blue like thing that she wore like on her thigh, you know, like what's that called? The garter for her wedding. And I just had it in my pocket. But then I wanted to have like other traditions too, and like Alex is not a very spiritual person, and so but it was important to me to have a spiritual aspect at my wedding. And so we said there was a 12-step prayer that I read in the wedding. And then we said we said some things about like, I wanted my mom represented there too, so I read something about that. And we wrote our own vows to each other. And I will never forget the night that we wrote our vows. Like, so when we went to Las Vegas for our wedding, we got married on a Thursday, not a Thursday at 6:30. So like that was another thing that was really important for me, was that I got married on the up, not the down. Do you guys know that tradition? Like you would get married at like 6:30 going to 7, not 6 to 6:30, because if you get married on the up, it's supposed to mean that your marriage is always supposed to go up. But like if you get married on the down, it's supposed to be bad luck. And we ended up getting married at like 6:58. I was like, oh my God. And literally after we kissed, it was like so close to the time. The fountains of the Bellagio went off, and you can see them in the background. Like right after we kissed, they start going off. And but I can remember the night. So when we went to Vegas, we stayed at the hotel at Mandalay Bay. I talked about this the other night. We stayed at the hotel at Mandalay Bay for like 4 nights, and then no. We got in on Sunday, and we stayed there till Tuesday, Sunday, Monday. We only stayed there 2 nights. I think we got there Thursday. We must have got there Friday or Saturday. I don't know. We were at Mandalay Bay for like 3 or 4 nights. We were in Vegas a total of 11 nights. So we got to Mandalay Bay, which I loved. It was called the hotel. It's not there anymore. It's called I think it's the Delano now. But anyway, we stayed there, and I remember the last night that we were there, when we were going over to the because we got married at the Cosmopolitan, and we stayed at the Cosmopolitan, and all our friends and family stayed there. We were like, we have to. Alex was like, we haven't written our vows yet, and I go, I know. And we wanted to write them together so they would kind of go back and forth, and we ended up getting into an argument about them. Not like how they were written, but just like some of the things that were said in them. And it was interesting because I ended up like, Alex got very upset emotionally, and then I got very upset, and then we were just like, fuck it, we'll just like wing it when we get there. And then we kind of like, I like went down to the casino and gambled, and he got some food, like room service, and I came back up like an hour later, and I don't know what happened. Like that fight needed to happen, I think, because like we just were like, we are getting married, like this is the coolest thing in the entire world, you know? And like, and at that time, like in Indiana, there was no marriage, same-sex marriage, so we were getting married, but it wasn't a legal marriage. And to us, looking back, that will always be my wedding, the wedding in Vegas, even though it wasn't a legal wedding. We later got married at the city county building, the day that they approved it in Indiana, which is June 26th. But we don't really look at that as an anniversary. So anyway, I came back to the room, and I don't know, we just ended up having like such a great night. We really connected, and we ended up writing our vows that night, and they were just incredible. And I remember people just were like, at the wedding, like afterwards, were just like, those were the most incredible wedding vows I've ever heard. And they just were very real. They just were us. They were like how we felt about the world and how we felt about us in the world and what we were willing to commit to each other in front of, you know, and that was how we felt about our relationship. And probably one of the proudest moments was working with my husband on those vows, you know, and I think to this day we very much believe a lot of those core values, you know. And one of the things that we chose to do is that we chose to get married in front of his best friend. So his best man was his best friend, Sarah. Best man, best person. And mine was my cousin, Caroline. And then our parents were there too, his mom and my dad. I would love to tell you that marriage is easy and that we haven't had any problems, but that's not true. And we've had some really hard times in our marriage. And, you know, that was in 2011. We're coming up on 6 years of being married. And there's been, I think, 2 really serious times in our marriage where we really thought, well, maybe this isn't gonna work or who we should be with. And if you've been in a marriage or a relationship and you haven't had that happen to you, you know, I think that's great. But the reality is, I think that's true of a lot of marriages and relationships. And it's not just, you know, I think one of the problems is that Alex and I's relationship started off as very like passionate and romantic, but the friendship piece wasn't really there. And so getting to know each other as friends kind of came later. And, you know, whereas I think most people like connect and become friends first, and then the passion is something that's hard to keep alive, like that's never been our problem. It's been where we like compete with each other and things like that, you know. And we have very different belief systems about things. And so, and Alex and I are both very dominant people. It's like, I'm right, no, I'm right, you know, and we've really had to work to communicate through the years. But one of the commitments that we made, and we said this in our wedding, was that any major difficulties that we had in our marriage, that we would consult my cousin and his best friend and our parents, because at that point there wasn't a legal commitment that we could make to each other. So we wanted to have an accountability, a marriage accountability, and that was our parents. And like his mom walked him down the aisle, and my dad walked me down the aisle. And I remember when my dad spoke, his mom did this, oh my God, his mom, she did this beautiful thing. I'll tell you about that in a second because I'll start crying. But my dad, when he walked, like both of our parents spoke at the wedding too. And his mother said it in Spanish, and then his brother Fufu translated it. And what she said, well, no, I'm gonna talk about that in a second. My dad, that's the part that's gonna make me cry. My dad said this thing, and he, you know, said that marriage is very difficult, but that marriage can be a blessing too, and it can be you spending the life with the person that you choose to. I mean, a lot of people don't, he said in his thing, you know, a lot of people don't get to choose who they get married to. You know, we forget about that sometimes about other parts of the world. And he said, but when people say that marriage is 50-50 or 70-30, that's bullshit. And he said marriage is always 100%. And both person has to put 100% into the marriage or it won't work effectively. And I think, you know, like that's been that and one other. So my dad was in his 70s when he gave me that advice. And this other guy that I was friends with, he gave me his family friend. And I said to him one time, I said, give me the best piece of advice. And he said, divorce is not an option. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, if you two go into it and you say, we're not going to get divorced, we're going to work through anything. I mean, there's some real sick shit that people can't work through, right? But like, if you're willing to say, okay, disregarding the extreme behaviors, we're willing to work through anything. Because I think for a lot of people, divorce has become an easy response. And, you know, then, and I'm not saying that I don't believe that divorce is a response. I mean, like, if tomorrow, you know, like, Alex and I decided, hey, this isn't going to work, and we're both miserable, why are we staying together to try to make something work that's not good? Then I think that we would discuss divorce as an option. But I think to have that kind of attitude where we're going to make this work at any expense, you know, I mean, like, and marriage counseling for me was something as a counselor, I always thought I will never do this. And it is like, it was really interesting tonight because I was talking to Alex about some things, and he's gotten so much softer with me and really compliments me, you know, and it's almost kind of hard for me to hear because Alex is very direct. He's constantly like, you know, if I wear a black shirt and I'm like, oh, do you like this shirt? He'll say, you look really cute, but I would have preferred it if you would have worn, you know, there's always, he's a fixer, if that makes sense. And I think it has a lot to do with him being an older brother. You know, there's always a little bit you could have done differently, you know? And I was standing in the kitchen and we were talking, and I was showing him something that I had gotten, and he just was like so sweet about the whole thing. And you know, like, it's crazy how our marriage is improving by sitting in a room and owning our shit, you know, and like teaching us to communicate in a way that like I knew how to do but never did it. You know, it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to do it, and I'm a big action person, so you know, I don't know, it's just been like great. And I think that like the trick is getting into marriage counseling before things get, you know, irreversible or too bad. But anyway, the thing I wanted to share about Alex's mom is, so she got up and she told this story in Spanish, and what she said was, so it's Alex, Carlos, and Fufu. So when Alex was born, she, you know, like, she had this rope, this string, and, or she had this string, and, you know, it was her and Alex. And then when Carlos was born, it was she on one end and Alex and Carlos with their two strings together, and they like wound together and they made this strong family tie. And then when Juan Carlos, Fufu, was born, that now she had these three strings, and these three strings wove together and they made this strong rope. And that it was this tie that binds their family together, she and her boys. And she said, and now I have this fourth string, and that's Peter. And she said, and he brings something to this family that I never knew was missing. And she said, this rope is tighter than it's ever been. And it's interesting because of my age. Like, Alex is 32 and he's the oldest, and I'm not as old as his mom, but like by 15 years. I don't want to say her age, but she's like 10 years, 15 years older than me. But anyway, very often people, like, if we're out to dinner, think that like I'm her husband. And which is funny, you know. Alex's mom looks great. I mean, she looks incredible, and she's in incredible health. And I take that very much as a compliment. But there have been times when I think she's leaned on me, not as like the husband because she's married, but I think as like the surrogate. And like with Alex, it's difficult, but like I definitely think with like Fufu, you know, she's like leaned on me a little bit to like give him advice and be that father figure, that because their dad lives in Venezuela, you know, that's here, that can say like, hey Fufu, you know, like what's going on here and stuff like that. And you know, I don't know, it's been awesome. Like I remember when Carlos and my sister-in-law Liliana got married. They got married here 2 years ago, and asked me to be the godfather of their son Sebastian, who is a year and a half old. And I thought, you know, like, life is so magic. I always wanted a sister, and now I have a sister, and I have, you know, two brothers, and this amazing family, and that really accepts me as their own. And it really changed for me a couple years ago. I have to tell you, there was this incident when I can't remember what it was. It was like a Christmas party or something, and Alex was out of town for a business trip and he couldn't go to it, and it was at Alex's Aunt Jackie's house. And she's in the very first episode that I ever did, very first vlog that I did on New Year's Eve. But I wasn't gonna go because I was like so uncomfortable. I was like, oh, there's a cop behind me and it's racing, so I better turn this off. That cop was going like 90 miles an hour, and has just gone through 3 red lights. And if I see them turn their lights off, like, people want to talk to me about being dangerous. Like, literally going through so fast. Anyway. That's one of my pet peeves, and I don't care. I know that there are good police officers out there, but there is no need to go through a red light with your lights on at like 70 or 80 in like a 30, and then like turn your lights off. Like, anyway. But there were, okay, so it was like a Christmas party. I can't remember what it was. I really can't remember what it was. It's so funny. But they didn't expect me to come, and I like called Hungria, his mom, and I said, I'm gonna come, and she was like, you are? And I said, yeah. And I got there, and I was like one of the first people there, and they were so excited. They were like so, like, it was like the first thing like I had come as like Peter, the son-in-law, you know, like, and just because Alex, I mean, you would think that I would come there all the time, but like, you know, like, I don't know, like the language barrier is hard sometimes, even though they all speak English, and but some of them don't speak English as well as others, and I don't speak Spanish, and that's my own fault. I need to learn Spanish. But I remember I went, I had such a great time, and at the time I was doing a raw foods diet, and his Aunt Jackie had made me this whole tray of like raw vegetables and stuff. It was so cool, and she was so excited that I was there. And like from that point on now, like, I was so uncomfortable before. I wasn't uncomfortable. I was just like, I didn't feel like part of. And this is not his family. This is Peter in life that I have not felt part of always. Like, always in my life, you know? Whether it is, you know, like in school or with friends, I've always felt like, I was on the outside looking in. And so it was very, very cool that, you know, all of a sudden I felt like I was part of something. And now, like, his mom and I have had lunch together. I mean, I've had lunch with all of them. I'd stop by their houses, stuff like that. So, but sometimes it's just stepping outside your comfort zone, you know, and trying to do something different. And I think, like, you know, I've only ever learned in life when I've allowed myself to be uncomfortable and test those limits and those boundaries, to be uncomfortable, you know? Because that's when you truly grow as a person. That's at least what I think. So, I love my family. I'm so thankful for it. Somebody asked in a vlog the other day, they said, why doesn't Peter ever like film going to his dad's house or having lunch with his dad and things like that? Because I don't go to lunch with my dad. I would love to. I mentioned that to him many, many times. And he always says he's very busy. Call my secretary and book it. Or, like, he and my stepmom are kind of like very private people. We just don't see them a whole lot, honestly. And, you know, there was about a 2-year period. My dad's, we have a great, if you talk to him, he would say, Peter and I have a great relationship. One of the reasons why I don't talk about it on here is that I think people immediately want to jump to the fact that, like, me not seeing my dad a lot has something to do with the fact that I'm gay. But my dad could give a rat's ass about me being gay. He always has. He loves Alex. He's very supportive of me, 100%. I think my dad, you know, like, my dad's been a caretaker his entire life. And when I was, you know, screwing up and into drugs and alcohol, I mean, that was a 10-year period of his life that he just was worn out and spent so much money on treatments and, you know, cars and attorneys and all kinds of things, and just many, 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 many restless nights. And I remember one time I called him from jail to come bail me out, and he said, I'm not going to come bail you out. And I said, I can't believe you're going to leave me in here. And he said, you don't have any idea what I go through on a nightly basis. I said, come and get me out of here now. I mean, I was, listen, 20-year-old entitled alcoholic Peter. I mean, I did not have a problem telling my 6'2" father, maybe taller than that, to get his shit together and come get me out. I said, you will come and get me out of jail. He said, I will do no such thing, because you know what? For the first time in a long time, I know where you are, and I don't have to worry about you being dead tonight. He hung up the phone. And you know what? I was pissed about that for a long time, and then years later, I was like, I remember I had this like counselor that looked at me, and she said, do you have any idea what you put your parents through? what did I put my parents through? You know, and then I remember reflecting back on that, and I thought, God, I put my dad through so much. And so, like, you know, my dad will be 77 in August, and he still practices surgery. He holds a very high position in a medical facility, and he's very busy. I think he works, you know, 50, 60 hours a week still, and probably will till the day he keels, although he's always talking to me about retirement. And I think that when he's done for the week, he just likes to be, like, by himself. He reads a lot. He likes to watch Law and Order, which, like, this is a new thing in the last couple of years. He's, like, obsessed with Law and Order and the news, and that's it. And my stepmom kind of does her own thing, and then they eat dinner together, and they sit on the patio, and whatever. I mean, like, if I called him tomorrow and I said, hey, can we come visit you this weekend? He'd be like, yeah, sure, what's a good day? I mean, he would totally be fine with that. But, like, you have to give them, like, a week in advance notice and all that kind of stuff. Plus, both of them have made it very, very clear they don't want to be in my videos. They're very supportive of it, but they don't have any desire. They're very private people. And, like, they would have their picture taken with me. They would be like, they would maybe like be in the background of a video for a second or two, but they don't like, now my camera is saying it's too hot. This video is not one to get made tonight. But they wouldn't want to be like a video. Does that make sense? Like my dad would be like, oh no, I'm not about all that. And he would say it just like that. He would say, oh no, no, I don't need that, thank you. But what's so funny is that when I was younger, my dad made videos. Like I have film, like 8-track, or is that what it's called? Or 8mm film that he and my mom used to make. My dad did this thing. I mean, this would go viral on YouTube back in the day, but he did it like in the 60s, where he called it like El Presto Christmas Tree, and it was like this film, and he like stopped it each time, and he like put this Christmas tree up, then stopped it, then put like the lights on, stopped it, and then like, and he did like this thing, so it was called like El Presto. And so like slowly, like, but like it was only like a 30-second clip of film. My dad is super creative, like super, super creative. He owns the patent to things. I mean, my dad has like invented so many medical devices and shit. I mean, he's super smart. So, but he's very artistically creative too. And so this video was like Magic Presto Christmas Tree, and then it was like that, and it was like supposed to be like a commercial, and like the whole Christmas tree just goes up together. It's like hilarious. But he used to do shit like that all the time. So he enjoys the YouTube thing. He doesn't watch any of the videos. I know that for a fact. My stepmom watched one. She didn't really get it. The humor she didn't think was very funny. She was like, I don't know any of these people that you're talking about. I'm like, I know, but anyway. But they're very supportive of me, and we do have a good relationship. I talk to my dad probably once a week. I just don't see them very often. My stepmom and I text a lot. She's a big texter. So, I don't know. I wish I had a closer relationship with them. I wish I saw them more often, you know? I mean, they're really my only extended family left besides my cousin and her family, but like, I'm talking about like immediate family, you know? Maybe I'll call my dad and go out there, see if he'll let me film it. His house is gorgeous. You guys would die. He's on the water. He's on a private gated street. It's interesting because like when I show that kind of stuff to people, people are like, you're loaded. I'm like, my dad hasn't given me a cent in 20 years. I'm not loaded. My dad works very hard for what he has, but I'm not part of that. And my dad has worked very hard for everything he has. He was the youngest of 5. He had an outhouse till he was 21. He paid his way to college. He paid his way to medical school. I talked about this the other day. I'm very proud of the man. And I'm not going to say that he hasn't helped me out from time to time financially when I've been in a rut, but he, like I have friends of mine whose like parents like write them like some grand check once a year, put a down payment on their, my dad would not do that. Like he wouldn't do that. He doesn't feel like it's his responsibility, and he also feels like he would be enabling me if he did that, you know? But when I was younger, I mean, he took me on amazing trips and bought me cars, and I mean, I had a great childhood. I had, you know, the best thing that ever happened between my dad was when he stopped giving me money. because our relationship was very much built on money, because I think he had a lot of guilt that he wasn't around a lot because he worked so hard, or that when he was around, like when he had me on like weekends and Wednesday nights, like I would have to go to the emergency room with him because he was on call, you know. So 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night, I'd go with my dad. I loved it, you know, but I think he had a lot of guilt for it. So then when I was like older, you know, like the cars, the trips, the clothes, I mean, it was really just whatever you want. But then when I got sober, and, you know, I had, you know, talked to my sponsor at the time, and my sponsor said, well, how's your relationship with your dad? And I'm like, it's great, you know, but whatever. And he's like, I'm like, my dad supports me really 100%. And my sponsor said, you're 22, your dad supports you 100%, nice financially. And I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, no. He was like, if your relationship's ever going to improve with your dad can't financially support you. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. So I needed a new car at the time. This is Peter telling on myself. I needed a new car. And, so I went, and my dad bought me a new car, a Nissan Xterra, which I drove for 12 years. He was so excited to buy it for me too, but we had I remember that day, it was like such a great day. And then I went and I told my sponsor that I had my dad buy me a new car. That was the issue. He was like, you can't let your dad buy you a new car. And I had no financial ability at that. I mean, I had no money, none, right? And so he fired me. I got a new sponsor, and then I told my dad that I couldn't accept money from him anymore. And my dad was totally cool with it. He goes, I agree with you. He goes, I want you to grow up. I want you to be a person of character. And if you continue to take money from me, you'll be dependent upon that, and you'll never grow. And that was when I got a job working in treatment as a tech. And I remember I was making $6.12 an hour. And I was so excited about it. I'm not lying to you. Like, I was making $6.12 an hour, and I was so excited about it. And for years, my dad had said, you won't know the true value of money until you get that first paycheck. And baby, that was the truth. When I got that first paycheck, and it was like for $430, I thought, this is some shit. I could have made this in an hour dealing drugs back in the day. I mean, I was like, this is some shit, but man, I earned it. I earned that money. I was so proud of it, you know? And, my dad, by stopping giving me money, taught me work ethic, and he taught me the value of money, you know, and I think that's the greatest thing in the world. And I'm very happy about that. My dad's taught me some You guys, I knew that was going to happen. It kept on saying internal temperature too hot. I have got to fix this camera tomorrow. I've got to figure it out. I'm so stupid with this stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, so yeah, my dad taught me a lot of valuable lessons. I love my dad. And, I think, like, through the years, it's interesting. I wouldn't say they're like recluses. They're not. But like, they just don't. Like, they go out to dinner maybe once on the weekends, and like, they cook at home, and they're with their dogs. And other than that, they don't really do anything, my dad and my stepmom, you know? Because he's so busy and she's so busy that they just kind of do their own thing. And it's whatever, you know? Do you know, like, how you compare your life to somebody else's? Like, I don't know that I would even think that there's like anything wrong with my relationship with my dad if it weren't for me seeing other people's relationships with their dads and how like they see their parents like all the time. You know, I don't know. I think, but like I thought a lot of times, like, if I had kids, like, I don't think my dad would be any different. Like, I don't think he would be the grandpa that I would like take the grandkids over there on the weekend to see grandpa. I mean, I just don't think that he would be that grandpa. I don't know, you know, like, I think my stepmom would be. I actually think she would have loved it, you know? Because now whenever we'll go to lunch, she'll say to Alex and I, she'll say, now, are you guys, have you thought about adopting kids? So I don't know if that's like her clue to like be like. But my stepmom's dad was very, very sick, and her mom is sick, so, you know, those are things that keep her busy, and they're just busy. I don't know. I'm making a lot of excuses, and maybe I am. You know, I would like to see my dad more. It is what it is. You do with what you're given, you know. My dad is a great man, and he has been a great father to me. And if that means in my adult life I've had to not have the relationship that I want to have, I'm willing to exchange that, because, you know, my dad called me every morning from the day that he left the house to the day that I graduated from high school to make sure that I was up for school. He called me every day in the summer just to say hi. I spent many weekends with him. You know, my mom would say for like, you know, 3 weeks at a time, can you take Peter? Like, she got her master's degree over like 3 summers, and I was with my dad like one whole summer. I was just basically with him. And he actually got my cousin Caroline to babysit me, and I think she was 16 and I was like 12 or 13. I remember we just like drive around in her car all day long, and she'd smoke cigarettes and drink Diet Cokes. And her diet, she lost like 20 pounds that summer. Her diet, I'll never forget, was like she would eat 1 ding dong in the morning for breakfast, drink a Diet Coke out of a can, and then we would listen to the Janet Jackson Control album in the car, and she knew every word. And then my dad would just leave his credit card, and we would go to like Benihana to eat dinner. We would go see movies, and she'd take me to go see movies like About Last Night. I remember that whole summer was so much fun. I remember this guy that she was dating. She was working at the athletic department, and she was 16 dating this guy that was like 21. The athletic department was kind of like a fitness store back in the day. It was like locally owned, I think. And but my dad was like so involved when I was a kid. Like, I think, like, you know, now his attitude is, you're grown up, I'm very proud of you, you know, you've take care of yourself, I don't need to be in that 24 hours a day. I don't know. Who knows? You know, there was a period of my sobriety where I worked exclusively on being able to see my dad and improving it, and he and I had this very poignant conversation, because I said to him, you know, you don't ever say things to me, and he got very angry, and I said to him, you know, he doesn't show like a lot of emotion up or down, although my dad is super affectionate, like hug, kisses on the cheek, things like that. Big macho guy, bearded, you know. And I said to him, you know, you never say to me that you're proud of me. Like, you never really said that. And he got really pissed. He goes, listen. He goes, just because you and I never have that conversation, which we have, and you're forgetting, he goes, you don't know what I say to people all over the city. He goes, I am so proud of you. He goes, I never thought that we would be here today, let alone that you would still be alive. He goes, Peter, I had already rehearsed your death and your funeral and everything, because I thought you would either end up dead or in prison. He goes, Peter, that's what I thought would be of your life. He said, because your drug and alcohol use. And he said, but you're not, and you're here. And he goes, and I talk about you all the time. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of you and Alex. And you guys are such a cool couple. And he goes, but I'm also not the dad that needs to tell you that all the time. He was like, and you know that. He goes, I think that security and inner security comes from within. And I'm not the dad that needs to tell you all the time how proud I am of you. You know that. You know that I'm proud of you, you know? We had this very cool conversation about it. And then a couple years ago, we had a conversation, maybe not a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, where he let me, I'll never forget, because like Alex and I went over there, and it was Alex and I, my dad and my stepmom, we were sitting outside. He likes to sit outside and smoke cigars. And their house is like level, so they were sitting on the top level, like overlooking the pool and the lake, and it's gorgeous out there. And my stepmother keeps it gorgeous with all these plants and flowers and stuff in the summer. And we got on the topic of my mom or something, and I said to my dad, like, I've talked about this on here before, and I get very emotional when I talk about it, but I said, you know, like, my dad, the day that we took my mom off life support, he came into the hospital, and he asked my aunt and everybody that was in the room, he said, will you leave? And he said, I want to talk to her for a couple minutes. You know, my mom was in a coma, but... And so he went in the hospital room, and he closed the door. And I found out, like, from my aunt that he was in there for like an hour. And so I had never known what my dad had said to my mom that day, you know? And I can't talk about this without getting upset. I don't know why, you know? I get so upset whenever I talk about this, but like just this one piece just bothers me. I don't know why. Because I think it's just like who my dad is, but like he also made my mom wait all her life to have some answers. And I mean, she's in a coma. She obviously doesn't really know. I don't know. I think people kind of do sometimes, but so I said, Dad, what did you say to Mom when you went in there, you know, that day? And he said, I said, you know, you were a wonderful mother. You raised an incredible son. I'm sorry that you had a really tough life, because she did. My mom had a really tough life. You know, she was the victim of horrific sexual abuse. And that we didn't even begin to speculate or understand until later. And he said, you know, I'm sorry for our marriage. I wish I could have, you know, been a better husband. And he said he just sat there and talked to her for an hour, you know. And my mom, like, all her life would always say, my mother was like she was never a Bible thumper, but she was a very, like, woman of strong faith, and, like, always trusted her pastor of her church. And she would say, I just want to get your dad in a room with Pastor Huxold. I just want to get him in a room and ask him what I did wrong as a wife, you know, and but I remember having that conversation in my dad's patio, and Alex and my stepmom kind of like walked inside as we started having the conversation, you know. My dad is a man who owns his shit. And when he has done things wrong, he owns it and never does it again. He learns from his mistakes. And I think that one of the reasons why he's so respected is because he is one of the most humble human beings I've ever met in my entire life, you know? And, he's just human like everybody else, you know? Like, I can remember asking my dad for advice, and he'd say, babe, you know, Pete, he calls me Pete, he'd say, Pete, we're human, you know, we make mistakes, you just own your part and you move on, you fix it as best you can, try not to continue to hurt people. It's really, life is really that simple, you know? And I think, like, really, those are the lessons that I've learned from my dad, you know? Just don't hurt people. So many people spend the entirety of their life on working on how they've treated others or how they've been treated by others. But, like, if we just spent our time, like, trying to be better human beings and treating each other kinder and just taking responsibility for our shit, life would go so much better. Like, why do we have to, like, treat people that way, you know? And that's why I always say it's the bitter and the sweet, you know? It's like, life wouldn't be amazing if you didn't have the bitter to compare it to. It's the bad days and the good days. And I may not love them at the time, but I'm thankful for the bad days to put the good days in perspective, you know? And I gotta remember that. If every day was like, you know, I a lot of times struggle with an inner sadness inside of me that I don't know where it comes from. And, you know, maybe it's clinical depression. I don't know. I don't joke about clinical depression. I've worked around it for so many years, and I think it's very serious. And I don't love when people just go, well, I suffer from depression, or I'm depressed. Well, there's a huge difference between sadness and depression. And, you know, like today I woke up and I was just sad. I don't know why. You know, it was a beautiful day outside. I had nothing to do. I tend to find that it happens on days that I don't have a lot to do that I find myself kind of sad, but I just was kind of down all day long today, you know, and, but I was sitting out there reading tonight, and I thought about today, and I thought, well, there was really no reason for me to feel sad. There was no reason for me to feel sad. And nothing happened that made me, I just felt it inside. You ever have days like that where you feel like there's a heavy blanket over you? And I was like, you know, tomorrow will be a better day. I'll wake up tomorrow and maybe feel better than I did today. I'm also like, one of the things that I think people don't understand on here a lot that or maybe it's a misconception about me that I'm just like so passionate and so driven that I just go. I set up high expectations for myself on what I want to get achieved every day, every month, every year. And if I don't meet those expectations, I kind of feel let down. And like today I woke up a little bit late and I was like, I'm not going to be able to get all this stuff done. And I think that like immediately hit me, just kind of like, what's the point then? You know, like, and I get just down and it's silly. It's just silly. Life's too short to be upset about silly stuff, don't you think? I do. I'm like passing that street right now that goes to, it's 161st. It goes down to Fox Hollow Farms, which I haven't talked about on here for a while, but that's where they were coming to film that thing. Oh my God, this weekend would be when I would be going to it. I'm kind of happy that I'm not having to do it now. I was kind of scared to do it, honestly. Truth be told, I like to be scared. I like to watch horror movies and all that kind of stuff, but I get really, really scared. And I don't go to haunted houses. Last year, Alex went with all of her friends, and they were so upset that I didn't want to go. And I was like, I don't do haunted houses. They terrify me. I don't like them. I don't need to be spooked and have people jumping out at me and stuff like that. I'll have a heart attack. I'll be like the first person that dies in a haunted house. I cannot do all that kind of stuff. So anyway, but I do love being scared, and it's so fun being scared in the summer, isn't it? I don't know why it's different in the summer. The summer and Halloween. I was just thinking about all these scary books I want to read. Now I want to go and buy a bunch of scary books. When I started It tonight, and I got to page 6. I got really deep into that It tonight, page 6 out of 1,100 pages. When I put it on my Goodreads, my update, it didn't even say any percent because it's not. It's still at 0. It's page 6. Like page 6 in the New York Times. I just have to keep on trudging through. I want to read it. Like, and I also want to finish Helter Skelter this summer. I need to set up a reading plan. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. For these books that I really want to finish, I'm going to sit down and, like, set up a reading plan. I did that with The Fountainhead, and I did that with Atlas Shrugged, but I never finished Atlas Shrugged. And I did that with Love in the Time of Cholera, which I never finished that book. I did not love that book. I have to be honest with you. I know it's by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I know it's supposedly like one of the most fantastic books in the world, but I did not love it. And but The Fountainhead I did finish that way, where I like figured out like how many pages I needed to read like per day for like 6 months, and it came out to something like 8 or 9. And that's how I finished The Fountainhead. And I have to say, I was pretty impacted by The Fountainhead. I thought it was an amazing book. Atlas Shrugged, you guys know that, like, okay, this is a true story. I think actually, Oh, the Places You Go has beat it now. But if you look at these lists, it's like, I saw this somewhere, it's like the 10 books that have most changed people's lives. Number 1 is the Bible. Number 2 is Oh, the Places You Go, and number 3 is Atlas Shrugged. And you know what is so crazy about that is that Atlas Shrugged was number 2 forever. Now, can you imagine that? I mean, like, Ayn Rand was a total atheist. So there you have number 1, you have the Bible, and number 2, you have Atlas Shrugged as the number 2 book that has most affected people. Can somebody explain that to me? Because I have never been able to get through that book. That book is too deep for me, way too deep. I'm passing my mother-in-law's house right there. Because I'm just driving. I'm going to listen to my audiobook in a second. But anyway, there's all these books I want to get. Brent Hardiger is one of my all-time favorite authors, and we're friends too, and he writes all gay young adult, and he is an incredible writer, and his book, The Geography Club, got made into a movie. He's been so supportive of me. He is such an awesome guy. But he had a book that came out last year called 3 Truths and a Lie, and he sent it to me before it got published to like beta read it, and I never did. I like read like 2 chapters of it, and then like I stopped reading it. I don't know why. And then it came out, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't read this book. If you are out there and you are a gay young man or a gay older man, I don't care, it doesn't matter. I read them just recently and I loved them. Get the Geography Club series and start reading them. There's like 5 in the series and they are fantastic. Fantastic. But anyway, so I think that I might want to get that book, because that book's about like 3 kids and this mystery that happens. They start playing that game, 3 Truths and a Lie. Have you ever heard that game? Or 2 Truths and a Lie, or whatever. It kills me. I just want to show you this really quick. Okay, this kills me. When you drive by these different housing editions like this. Now look at that. Do you see that house? Okay, look. Nobody lives in that house. I'm going to show you. This house right here is like one of those stock houses that people go through and they're like, oh, it's a brand new house. And then they go in there and it's like staged so that people want to buy it. How much light do you need to have on? They have lights in every room in that house. That is absolutely ridiculous. There is no need for that. That pisses me off. It's a cute neighborhood though. Oh, I need something to eat. I'm so hungry. Well, you guys, I think I'm gonna get off here now. I've cried. I've told some truths. I've laughed. It's been a vlog. Tomorrow I've got to vlog all day. I cannot just vlog like late at night. I know it probably is. You guys don't love it, but some of you will say, oh my God, I love watching your vlogs when you just drive around. Other people will be like, can you do this? Can you do that? It's a mix. I mean, it's all a mix, right? It's a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of who, a little bit of we, a little bit of when. Anyway, I love you guys, and I hope you're having an amazing Tuesday. Go eat some kind of summer food today, like watermelon or strawberries or ice cream. Sherbet. I always think of sherbet as ice cream in the summer. I love sherbet. Like orange sherbet, I love, or rainbow sherbet is so good. All right, you guys, I love you, and I will talk to you later. Bye.